Finding love hasn't been easy for Andrew Gurza.
The last time I went on a date, a proper date, was probably about 2-3 years ago.
Gurza is a queer man living with cerebral palsy, a disorder that impacts his mobility and muscle control. He says 2 LGBTQIA+ spaces in Toronto, where he calls home, aren't accessible to him. Even when these spaces are accessible, he says he doesn't always feel welcome.
I feel very isolated in those spaces because most of them are not accessible, and if I can access the space, a lot of the community doesn't know how to receive me, has never, seen a disabled person like me in the space.
According to Statistics Canada, in 2017, 1 in 5 Canadians over age 15 had some form of disability. But just like in other spaces, norms, beauty standards, and societal expectations in the 2 LGBTQIA+ community can mean people with disabilities, like Andrew, aren't accepted as easily.
In kind of queer communities, especially among the men's community or the trans-masculine community, there's kind of a norm of what a body should be and is acceptable and welcoming, and not just acceptable and welcoming, but actually celebrated.
Gurza says dating within the community is difficult because of the barriers he encounters due to his disability.
Not that I've given up on dating, but I've really stopped pursuing that because the ableism I experience is exhausting. To constantly have to prove that I'm worthy of a date or worthy of a sexual encounter or worthy of intimacy is really, really hard.
Colin Phillips also has cerebral palsy and speaks through an attendant. They wish others in the community could see them the way they see themselves.
But one of the things I'm most proud of is just being your dime a dozen urban queer professional who was the queer kid in Southern Ontario. And I wish my community saw me as that.
They say while it's frustrating to access some spaces, they see these spaces as theirs and will work to make them accessible.
I do find the Village and other queer spaces like Hanlon's Point accessible just because I make them accessible. Now, part of that is privilege of being able to crawl, but more importantly, I have the attitude that it is my community space.
We all will become disabled one day, so it is something we need to be prepared for. We need to start talking about access in all of these spaces now because it will be a part of our story eventually, if it isn't already.
Gurza urges the community to recognize ableism and do the work to combat it. Reporting in Toronto, Alyssa Julie, Global News.